Hello students, Ms. Swanson here, and today we're going to take a look at chemical reactions. Now I've chosen 4 pictures here that show some pretty classic chemical reactions and some of the characteristics that we see of these chemical reactions. So we have 4 learning goals for today. The first is to classify events as either physical or chemical changes. The second is to identify the typical indicators of a chemical change. The third is to write word equations from chemical equations. And the fourth is to write chemical equations from word equations. So let's start off with the difference between a chemical change and a physical change. Well, a chemical change is also known as a chemical reaction, which is what we'll be talking about during the rest of this lesson. And it is when a new substance is formed. So you start off with 1 or 2 or 3 different things, combine them together or maybe break something apart, and you end up with different substances than what you started off with. A physical change is something where it may change shape, it may change phase from solid, liquid, or gas, but the substance itself is exactly the same as it was at the start and at the end. So here is some evidence that you're dealing with a chemical reaction or dealing with a chemical change. The color may change, for example, in the picture up at the top, where you can see one substance is being poured into another and you're getting a chemical change. Heat, light, or sound, for example, the space shuttle being launched, you've got all of those happening. Gases are formed, like when you drop Mentos into Coca-Cola, you end up having a big spurt of gases, and so that's why the Coke starts going everywhere. And then a precipitate could be formed. A precipitate is a solid that's formed when 2 liquids are mixed together. For example, when those 2 clear liquids are mixed together, a yellow precipitate is formed and it'll actually settle to the bottom at the end. So when we're talking about our reactions, there's a little bit of terminology here. Reactants are the chemicals that you start with, and products are the ones that you end up with. So let's say we want to actually talk about a chemical reaction. There are 2 ways to do it, using chemical formulas or using words. So if we use a word equation, here's an example. Magnesium and diatomic chlorine react to form magnesium chloride. So let's break that down. You start off by writing the reactants in words. You then write a reaction verb, so something like produces, yields, makes, reacts to form, decomposes into, so some sort of reaction verb, and then the products are written in words. So we need to remember all of our nomenclature in order to write these in words. So if we look for our reactants in this word equation, we've got magnesium and diatomic chlorine because that's what we start with. Our reaction verb here is reacts to form. And then our product is what comes after the reaction verb, so magnesium chloride is our product. What about the chemical equations? Here's an example. Mg plus Cl2 gives us MgCl2. So we write reactants, the symbols on the left. We write an arrow pointing in the direction from left to right. And then we write the products on the right with plus signs in between them. So if we look for our reactants here, this is everything on the left side. We have our arrow, and then we have our products, which is everything on the right side. So this is how we would write a chemical equation. If we're given a word equation and we need to write it as a chemical equation, we need to remember our nomenclature rules to get the right formulas. So let's take another look at our learning goals. You should be able to classify events as physical or chemical changes, identify the typical indicators of a chemical change, write word equations from chemical equations, and write chemical equations from word equations. If you can do all this, fantastic. If not, please rewatch the video, and if you're still having trouble, come ask me in class tomorrow. Alright, that's all for now. Bye-bye.